It's like sailing masts, some fancy looking fishing boats. There's like a gray and blue building with a golden seahorse logo. You usually get a lot of questions about that area. That's just the Galveston Yacht Marina. Well, it's a nice little marina we have here. Well, I believe it's the oldest one on the Gulf Coast, actually. And then inside of that warehouse, the silver and blue warehouse that has the gold seahorse logo, is actually what's called a dry stack. So if you imagine like a backstock area, like a Home Depot, except that on all the shelving are a bunch of fancy luxury yachts and fishing boats. The way they actually get them up there on the shelves is literally an enormous forklift. It can lift out boats, probably not as big as ours, but not too far off. Talk about a stressful forklift job. Back off to the left, though, you see a bunch of piping, and construction bars with a crane and a lot of stuff going on there. So this is all still part of another dredging operation. So instead of the dredge ship where it's all contained in one ship, this has a bunch of different pipelines and cutter dredge on a bar. So there's a lot more moving parts to that dredge operation. But sometimes they can run miles worth of those pipes under the water, so they'll actually sink into the ocean floor, and they'll redeposit the sand or the dredge material. They even run it all the way to the seawall to help build up the seawall to extend the beach further out to the Gulf. So since the beach is technically our first line of defense against hurricanes, so they'll do that every now and then. Probably like every couple of years or so. Now ahead of us out the distance, moving across our bow or the front part of our boat. Way out there you got a white blue boat. It's got two towers, or a tower on either end. It's real flat on the bottom. And closer to us off to the right are two more identical vessels. So these are all ferry boats. Now the ferry boats are free to ride. And they'll take you all the way to Bolivar Peninsula. That's the landmass directly ahead of us. It's going across the horizon there. So it's marked by the Bolivar Point Lighthouse, the black and white striped tower there in the distance. So while it's free to ride the ferry boats, you can drive your car straight on or you can walk on board. I will let you know if they're having a busy weekend or if there's like a big event going on. And like this weekend, it's going to be pretty busy. And if you have a long line of cars over there, you're trying to board the ferry with your car, you're going to be waiting a long time. No joke. I'm talking like anywhere from 1 to, somebody even told me they had to wait just a little over 3 hours one time to board the ferry, and that's just going one direction. You might have a similar wait time to come back, so potentially you just lose, 4 or more hours of your day just sitting in your car. So heads up on that. Now, if you want to ride the ferry, just to ride it, just to see what it'd be like to ride the ferry, it's a fun boat ride, and it's really busy. You don't have to use your car. You can park over there. They have some parking. At that point, walk on board. You can walk past the traffic jam, wave at everybody as you do, and then you get a lot faster way to get going on the boat ride. Yeah, I got a good question about what the event was this weekend, so I suppose I should mention that. It's called the Lone Star Rally. It's one of the largest biker motorcycle rallies, I believe, in the U.S. Yeah, apparently last year, I think the last estimate we looked up was around 150,000 bikers were on the island. Galveston, all the red roof buildings. You see a bunch of boats over there, which they call cutters. That's all part of our U.S. Coast Guard station. Yeah, so that's our very own Coast Guard. In fact, that Coast Guard station is the second largest one in the United States. Now, if you're wondering where the largest Coast Guard station in the U.S. is for, like, you know, bar trivia's sake, that one is in Kodiak, Alaska. Now, off to the left, last thing I'll point out on the Pelican Island side is Seawolf Park. So you can see a couple of World War II era naval vessels, part of the Galveston Naval Museum here at Seawolf Park. The gray one is the Destroyer Escort Stewart, would have been used as like a submarine hunter. Right next to it is a submarine called Kavala. You can actually get on board those naval vessels to tour them. Check them out. It's like $13 a person, and I believe just a little over $10 per car to park over there. In addition to the Naval Museum, it's also a day use area, right? So they have other stuff you could do. There's like a playground, of course, beach volleyball courts. They got basketball goals, grills, picnic tables, stuff like that. If you want to get over there, again, it's on Pelican Island. Remember, that's separate from Galveston, right? So you have to take the bridge on 51st Street, 5-1, cross over to Pelican Island, and then you follow the signs for Seawolf Park. Pretty much a straight shot all the way to the end. Start to make our way out of the Galveston Channel here. We're going to be entering into lower Galveston Bay. Out ahead of us is an area called the Bolivar Roads, considered one of the busier shipping areas in the United States. It's where Galveston, Houston, and Texas City shipping lanes meet up, and then they run out to the Gulf, which is just off to the right. You can see a large tanker that's making its way in way out there in the distance. You also notice a lot of ships out that way, right? On the right, they're not moving, and they're facing the same direction. So that's all part of an anchorage basin. So those are actually anchored out there. In the anchorage basin, just a way to help control all the busy shipping traffic here. So they won't stay out there very long. Usually it's only a day or so, maybe a week at the most. In fact, that looked totally different earlier this morning, so there's already been a lot of ships that aren't there now.
These ferries are free to ride. I'm not on a ferry, but this was only $20, but the ferries are free, even with your car. But on a busy week.
Oh, off to the right. Okay, we'll
bunch
go
of
down
dolphins.
here. We got a massive group of dolphins just swimming right towards us out to the right, and there were some on the left as well. We got a little family here just out to the right, or pod, right? That's actually what you call a group of dolphins, a pod. Really close on the right there. Now you can see how they're swimming around each other in kind of a circle. I would guess that what's going on here is they're fishing. And that's one reason they'll travel in a pod. They work together to swim circles around like a school of fish. They'll start tightening in their circle. And at that point you get kind of a confused mass of bait fish. And they get kind of like all you can eat buffet. Yeah, there you go. Just out to the right. Pretty sure they're fishing over there. That's pretty cool. Now the type of dolphins we're looking at here and have been throughout the tour, if you've seen them, specifically the Atlantic bottlenose dolphin. Now, in fact, the Atlantic bottlenose we have here, they're only one of two marine mammals we would see inside or around our channel here. We actually don't get other types of dolphins in here. We don't get porpoise in here, or whales, or manatees. Just the Atlantic bottlenose and actually river otters. These dolphins are being super active directly ahead of us. Going after some fish. Yeah, there's a ton. This is a massive pod, folks. And you can see occasionally there's some that are popping up that are really small, like considerably smaller than the other ones. Those are little baby dolphins, or calves. That's what you call a baby dolphin. Adorable. Now we kind of have to hang here because off to the left, we got a big old ferry boat barreling towards us, and off to the right, we got a ferry boat that's trying to make its way out. So some of the shipping traffic probably kind of pinched us in here. But luckily, they're not too far away. They're still kind of ahead of us. Now, they'll also travel in a pod for protection, right? So they do have predators, of course. Their main predator here, that'd be the short fin mako shark. So if y'all were wondering if we have sharks here in Galveston, yeah, we do, right? Still in salt water. We actually have about 26 species of sharks. Yeah, these dolphins look like they've headed off elsewhere. We'll kind of spin around. Plus, we're going to get out of the way of this ferry boat. Atlantic bottlenose can actually hold their breath for a fairly long time. A little over 6 minutes. They can swim up to about 22 miles an hour. That's pretty fast. They cover a lot of water pretty quick. But conveniently, they're popping up again directly ahead of us. Now, with all the boat traffic as well, if you are going to move around, what you're allowed to do. But some of the boat traffic, especially the ferry boats, tend to throw a little bit of a larger wake or wave. When they catch up to us, they might rock us around pretty good. So do be aware of that. If you're going to move around or walk around, probably going to get rocked and rolled a little bit. Just off to the left, super close, these dolphins are. Now it's estimated we got a pretty stable population of Atlantic bottlenose in and around our channel here. Now 1,200 or so. The reason there's so many is something that makes them kind of unique to our area. In fact, the ones we're looking at today, they don't migrate out of here. Yeah, they spend their whole lives here, born and raised here. So the reason they don't migrate, water's fairly consistent temperature year-round, but we also have an overabundance of a type of bait fish here, which is called a mullet, right? Like that old school haircut. Seems to be making a comeback. I'm here for it. That's a good look. And then we also have a huge run of flounder that has to pass through our channel every year to get to their spawning grounds. So at that point, there's thousands of flounder moving through here, which is actually right about now, flounder season. So dolphins just got plenty of food, just kind of figured why leave, right? So they're all very used to the boat and ship traffic. So people also ask if they ever get hit by boats. While it's possible, I guess, it's highly, highly unlikely. Like I said, they grow up around boats their whole lives. They're really, really intelligent. And they also got echolocation, right? So it allows them to be able to see, essentially, boats from miles away.
There's a dolphin.
Before we're kind of running out of time, so before we do, take to show you one more thing.
Oh wow,
here.
Shipwreck.
Or at least a couple more things. Off to the right, you get a better view of the Bolivar Point Lighthouse. Again, the black and white striped tower there. A first one was built in 1852. It was the first lighthouse in the state,
Over there.
but then it got destroyed in the Civil War. That one we're looking at, they actually rebuilt it in 1872 out of cast iron. Now, it functioned as a lighthouse all the way through the 30s. Eventually, the Coast Guard decommissioned it, sold it off at a public auction in the 40s. So believe it or not, for now anyway, it's on private property. Not something you can go check out. But recently, there's been a movement to restore the lighthouse. They have actively been restoring it. In fact, up until not too long ago, it was a big kind of dark, rusty color, sort of falling apart. So you can see they've restored it. They actually put the old school paint scheme on there. Once they're done restoring it, they said at that point, they'll open it back up to the public as like a state historic landmark. This would be pretty cool. A lot better use for a historic lighthouse, in my opinion. And then, of course, the last reason we brought you all the way out here, right, is to check out this thing sticking up out of the water ahead of us. We got a good angle on it now. You probably figured it out that it's a ship. Yeah, that's all that remains of a ship that was called Selma, like the town. Selma was an oil tanker that was commissioned in 1919. It's made out of a weird material, though, that maybe you wouldn't guess otherwise. Not made out of like iron or steel or even wood. The Selma here on the left, made out of concrete. Yeah, just like a sidewalk. Now that's actually an okay thing to make a boat out of, right? So it's more the shape that's going to make it float. The reason they chose concrete, they were conserving things like iron,